Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. I know when you're new to turning, you often have wonderful ideas that you're going to make a great big bowl, or you're going to make some teeny little something or other. But whatever you're going to do, it really pays just to spend some time just making shavings, usually with a block of wood, not unlike this, between centers on a lathe. And this video is going to be an absolute basic introduction to getting wood on the lathe and making your first cuts. So when you get started, you want to find something like this is a bit of Oregon pine, and this is a branch of, can't remember what it was now, ash I think. But it's fairly green. This stuff is bone dry, but they're both basically firewood and very good to start with. So, and we're going to put this blank between centers, a spur drive at this end and a tail center here. Now, I've learned to do these things by eye with practice, but when you first start, to find center of this, you draw, this is fairly square, so you can draw the two diagonals, and that will give you the center. Now the other end I'm going to do by eye, or I'll do this end by eye. That end goes against the spike in the middle, and to find center here, I'm just going to eyeball between the two pieces there, and whoops, I need to tighten up the tail center, tailstock. I found center by eye there, and then I roll it over 90 degrees and find it again, and I just need to move it very slightly to there, I think, and I can check that by holding a pencil on the end grain and just spinning the wood round. So that's not too far off. Now the more you do that by eye, the better you get at it. And I can tell you, even after 53 years of turning, I still get that nice little flush of pleasure when I get it right yet again. Right, now next thing is to consider is the grain direction. So this is Oregon pine, much used for building in Australia, and this piece is about 60 years old. And the main thing with the turning is you need to know about grain direction. So the grain here is, you can see the growth rings running that way. Now in order to get a clean cut, you need to go from the larger to the smaller diameter. It's rather like sharpening a pencil. If you're sharpening a pencil, you know you go that way, you do not go from the lead back. So the first thing we're going to do is to take a series of cuts to take the square away and to make the thing round. Now I'm going to start off with what is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Now you need to make sure, spin the wood by hand so that make sure it's clear of the rest. So the rest height needs to be somewhere probably just below center. The most important thing is for you to be comfortable. So when it comes to holding the tool, I like to have my right hand fairly near the tool ferrule, that's the bit which stops the wood splitting, rather than the end of the handle. Because if I have my hand near the end of the handle, it just has to move so much further, whereas up here it's a much more economical movement, and I keep the handle into my side. So when it comes to turning, the tool is going to go on the rest. The bevel, which is the shiny bit underneath on the bottom of the tool, that goes against the wood. Then you raise the handle until you get a little bit of a shaving, a little bit of dust coming off the edge, and then you can move the tool forward. have a closer look at that. So that cut is nice and clean. So here we go again. So the tool goes on the rest, the bevel heel comes on the wood, raise the handle until there's a bit of dust, and then you can go forward with the cut. Now you want to try and keep this hand in contact with the rest, because it's from that point that you're really manipulating the tool. So this hand is going to be with the tool blade. If you're just standing back without your hand on the rest, everything is then kind of stemming from your feet, and you're inclined to rock around a bit, so you just don't have the tool control that you do if your hand is up here. Now your hand can be underneath, which looks very nice in a photograph, but it also means that you can get the shavings in your face. Whereas if you have your hand over the top, the tool's against the knuckle of the bottom of your little finger, pushes it forward, and when you get a bit more experience you can stick your fingers up and stop the shavings coming into your face. Now this is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge, which if I only had one tool, this would probably be it, because you can do almost everything with this tool if you absolutely have to. Next we're going to look at what's called a Continental roughing gouge. This is quite a large one, but they do come in different sizes. I've got an older one here, this is from the 1930s, and does the same thing. Bevel goes onto the wood, raise the handle, and then move it forward. Not a common shape these days, whereas this one is, and this would be my favorite tool for roughing down. Roughing down is taking the square section to round. So, tool on the rest, bevel shoulder on the wood, raise the handle, and then move it forward. So once you've got the piece to round, you can then just play around with the tool and see what you can do with it. So this is really a roughing tool just for taking something from the square section down to round. Now I can use the nose. Which is what we call a peeling cut, and I'm going to get another bit of wood in a minute which will show you that better. But that is not a particularly smooth surface, as you can see, but if I can get the wood coming onto an angle, then it'll be much smoother. But we'll see that much better in the next piece of timber I'm going to use. So we'll leave that one and go to a piece of green timber, stuff which was growing only a few weeks ago. So on this one, we'll start off with the Continental roughing gouge. So, tool on the rest, number one. Bevel can ride on the wood, then you bring the tool up, raise the handle until there's a shaving coming off. You hear the note change and then move forward. If I'm doing that with a half-inch spindle gouge, what the half-inch spindle gouge gives you is more practice. Of course, you can't take as big a cut, so you have to take more of them. I can go back the other way. Now, if you only have a deep-fluted bowl gouge, which is what this is, it's basically the same thing. Tool on the rest, bevel on the wood, roll it over until you get a shaving, and away you go. Back to the big gouge. Now just have a look at the difference between the peeling and cutting. So moving the rest a little bit closer. So if I'm using the nose of the tool, what I get coming off the wood, as you can see, is a roll of shaving. Whereas if I'm cutting with the edge at a bit of an angle, I'm going to get a curly shaving which comes off, which is really a slice. Now this wood turns a lot better than the other one, therefore there isn't so dramatic a difference between the two surfaces. Now the constant in wood turning is the wood is always coming down, and so if you can manage to keep the portion of the edge which is cutting at around 45 degrees to the wood as it comes down onto the chisel, onto the edge, you'll get a curly shaving. Whereas if I have the nose a little flat section against the wood, what you get is a roll. And so when you're roughing down, it doesn't really matter if the surface isn't that good, but often that's nice and fast. But if I want to get a much better surface, then that angle in there is at 45 degrees to the wood as it comes onto the edge. So, on a smaller scale with the half-inch spindle gouge, it's about 14 millimeters. You can start trying to do beads rather, where you just round it over and you begin to roll the tool in the direction you're going. Other way. On its side, and then you can roll it up again. Now if I try and go uphill the wood is going to be on an unsupported edge. There's space in under here and it will catch. And if you haven't had a catch, it's one of those, which scares the daylights out of people, but you need to come to terms with them. Now, I've got a whole separate video on catches, so I advise you to have a look at that. So once you start making shapes, just see what you can do with this tool. If you roll it right on its side, you can make a kind of V groove. So the tool starts right on its side, the flute is sticking that way. The handle is dropped so that when you start the cut, you basically bring the handle up, which pivots the edge into the wood. Then the bevel is rubbing the bit you've just cut, which I'll mark with a dark line, and then you can ease the tool forward. Looking at it from the other side, this bevel is lined up with the direction I want to go, which is straight in. Now, the whole secret to fine turning and tool control is that you are not here to push a tool into the wood, you're here to let the wood come to the tool. And all you have to do is hold the edge at the right angle so it gets sliced, so the timber gets sliced as it comes past the edge. So you just go on and on and on, practicing this until it breaks, which it will. And I'll just get it down to that level. I'll do it with the big gouge. You get that vibration, that humming noise. Which I had just there and can't repeat. That's a sign that you're just pushing too hard. So, I'm going to go on down here until the wood breaks, which you can then see what happens. Getting very thin now. Now that noise, that is a proper catch, just me being a bit careless. So come on down. It's getting very thin. This is, and you'll hear a vibrating sound. I get it when I want it though. Now it's getting very thin, so if I push here it's going to break. And it's generally not a big deal. It's just going to rattle and fall like that. It's not the same as having a catch with a bowl where it can come off and hit you in the face.